magical method, too good to be true. So I went along, never going to work, but what did I have to lose? Because my wife smoked as well. The other side of the coin was, at the time, I was trying to start to get a young family going, and my wife was saying to me, you're going to have to pack in smoking when the child comes along. Don't know, like, if you're like me, but I hate being told what to do. So I thought, well, hang on, I'll just tell you I've stopped smoking. But I had no intentions of doing it, especially not being told to stop. So what I did, I thought I won't tell anybody. I'll just go along and check out this seminar and see what it's all about. Didn't tell anybody I was going in case I failed at that, because I was starting to fail at most things at this point, because life was just getting a little bit out of control for me. I had nowhere to turn. Luckily, I found Rob. 5 hours later, I came out a happy non-smoker. I didn't know I was a happy non-smoker. I went home, on the way home, my wife said, bring the cigarettes in. I went in the shop. I just bought her a pack of Regal. I smoked Benson and Hedges, so I just went to the counter and said, 20 Regal. The Benson and Hedges didn't come out. Oh, that's a bit odd. Went home, gave her the cigarettes. I just stood there looking at her, smoking them. She said, you're not having one? I said, nah, I don't know. No, I'll give it a miss tonight. A night became a weekend became a month, and before I knew it, everybody was going, wow, Mike, look at you, you're a non-smoker. But in the back of my head, I was drinking. I was still drinking to the point at which I was nearly killing myself. I packed in the cigarettes, but I couldn't pack in the booze. To the point at which I'd even come home from work, and I couldn't admit I'd been drinking. I was drinking in the morning, a bottle of vodka in the car. I was drinking at lunchtime, a couple of pints of cider, because somebody told me you couldn't smell it. And you could smell it on me because I stunk. Then I get home, have to take the little one swimming. I couldn't admit I couldn't drive the car, because that would admit to drinking during the day. So it was easier to put the little one in the car than it was to admit I'd done something wrong. It's not that I didn't care, it's not that I'm a bad person. I was just in a mess. I stopped drinking pints and I stopped going out. I started drinking wine. I used to like whiskey, but I started drinking vodka. And if you know, I'd never ever drunk vodka, ever. But now I was drinking vodka in the car. I lost the job. You wouldn't have employed me if you saw me at that point. I was about 3 weeks away from losing the house. And how my wife stuck with me in the little one, God only knows, but I did. She did. I phoned up easy, I did the classic. What's this drinking seminar like? Is it any good as the smoking one? Yeah. Get yourself booked on. I got booked on. Couldn't wait to get there. I sat in the room in Birmingham, and Crispin said, how are you feeling, mate? It was obvious I was a mess. I said, Crispin, this just has to work. 6 hours later, I walked out, still didn't tell anybody I'd been, still walked out, I was still me. I went home, it was a Friday. I got in, my wife was there with my favourite can and a glass, because she must have had a busy day. She didn't know I'd lost my job, so I didn't have the guts to tell her. I told her I'd been for another busy meeting down in Birmingham. But I said to her, I looked at the can, and I could have took it. And for a split second, I nearly did. What's the point in going to Birmingham if you're not going to give this a try? So I looked at it, I looked at it, is that what I really want? And I knew deep down it wasn't what I really wanted, what I wanted was to stop. So I just gave myself 20 minutes to collect my thoughts, sat down, and then the feeling went away. Friday came and went, the weekend came and went, Christmas came and went. Wow. I started to change. I was nearly 19 stone, I was huge. I looked like I was dead. I looked horrible. I was acting horrible. I was saying and doing horrible things to people, and I didn't mean it. Didn't mean any of it. And then I started thinking, what the hell happened in that 6 hours with Crispin in that room? I got a job. I sorted myself out. Things were starting. I was starting to turn a corner because I was starting to be me. And deep down, I'm all right. I'm quite a nice guy. The guy I always was. Phoned up John. John, I've been on a smoking course, I've been on a drinking course, whatever you guys are doing down there, I want a piece of it. How does it work? Because you've just converted one of your hardest customers. What was the magic? What's the secret? I want to get involved in drinking because there was only London, there was only Birmingham. And John said, thanks Michael, it's not really one of our plans, it's not the same, smoking's taken care of, drinking's a different ball game, it's a lot tougher, the numbers are less. I said, well, I'm down in London next week, you wouldn't be able to just spare me 20 minutes of your time because I'm really interested to know what happened. John, being the amazing nice guy that he did, he gave me 20 minutes of his time. 2 hours later, we were chatting. And 2 hours, another hour and a half after that, we shook hands and he went, Mike, let's do it. I said to him, you've got nothing to lose. If I learn the manual and you don't think drinking in Manchester is going to work, then all I've lost is my 2 years preparation training. You've actually not lost anything. I remember that day like it was yesterday. That was the day everything started to change. So if I've been on a journey to Singapore and Melbourne, do you know what? I've been on a bigger journey than that. Because 4 weeks later, that landed on my desk. Flipping heck. I know John said it wouldn't be easy. I don't think it'd be that difficult. When that manual landed, I opened the box, so excited. We signed up, we've done all the paperwork. Brilliant. It can't be that hard. Because Crispin, obviously, I didn't appreciate just how good Crispin was, but he made it look easy. Oh, bloody hell. So, got my book out. And for a split second again, I thought, what have I done? What have I let myself in for here? This is never going to happen. I've got to learn that. I said, not only did it look harder, but you've got to be the most cleverest person in the world. And while I was doubting myself, the book seemed to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger to the point at which I said, oh, this isn't for me. But you know, you chat to people, you do a bit of work, and you think, well, hang on, that initial excitement is still there, because I still wanted to know what happened. And people say, how do you eat an elephant? And it's like, yeah, just mouthful, chew, bite, bite. You know, a journey of 1,000 miles, it takes, how do you do that? Well, you take it with the first steps. So all those sort of things were rung true, and I could relate to them. But when something like that lands on your desk and you're not quite sure, you've got two ways, you've got two options. Two ways of looking at it. I chose to look at it in that sentence there. You can read that two different ways. Either this was something I was going to do, submerge myself in it, or it was an opportunity that was never going to be for me. That little equation there, I came across that. I was doing some work with a very inspirational chap called Nigel Risner. He's a motivational speaker, but he's a bit more than that. And he always says there's a simple way of dealing with anything. The event plus your response to that event equals your outcome. Or if there's opportunity is now here, it depends how you react to that equation. So, you have two options, like most things in life, you either do or you don't. If you're going to do it, you've got to do it properly. So, like most people in this room, we decide to do things properly. So I took his little equation on board. But like most things we do in an easy way, you can always take it a little step further. So I was thinking, what did I do? How did I learn? How did I come across? What happened for me? And it led me to come up with that slide. R equals C, RC. Quite easy to remember. What does it mean? What does RC mean to me? What was it that inspired me to do what I did? Well, the result, whatever that result is a combination of your strategy, how you execute that strategy, but more important, you have to assess what you did. It's also the equation for luck, because the more you do it, the luckier you get. It's not luck, it's application of that strategy. Yusung talked yesterday about how his business took on because he was lucky that the opportunity for the South Korea took the stance that they took. What Yusung was doing, he was actually doing that process. He did that process 3 or 4 times. That's not luck, that was opportunity is now here. It's that. That's what Yusung did. It's no surprise that Yusung went on to be quite successful because he was employing the same strategy whether he realised it or not. He didn't get it right first time, that's okay. It's okay to get things wrong as long as you assess it and go back to the start and start again. Tweak it and tweak it, fine-tune it, assess, strategy, execution, assess. So that's the principle of it. But what did I do? I got my book, got my pad out and started going through it. I made a load of notes. I went back next day, looked at the notes and went, well, all I've done is just write the book out. That's not going to get me anywhere. That's not going to work. Tried it again. Got the same outcome. This isn't going to work. Started doubting myself again, because doubt often creeps in when you're trying to fast track something. If something's worth doing, you can't fast track it. You've got to do it step by step. As I said, I was busy getting nowhere because it was just frustration that was building. I wasn't following the equation. I wasn't having a strategy, I wasn't executing it, and I wasn't learning from it. I didn't have a strategy, so execution becomes pointless. What happened is when I started to write down and get a plan together, things started to click. It started to make sense. What did I do? What did I do in my training? Well, first of all, like what we all do, if you're going to be good at anything, you've got to learn from the best. So I went back to Crispin. Crispin, right, I'm going to sit on your session again. I'm going to look at it from the point of view of a trainer, not as a client. What I also did is when I went home that night, while it was fresh, I started to put half an hour snippets down on the dictaphone. I was working in Newcastle at the time, now living in Liverpool, so I spent a lot of time in the car. So it was easy to listen to the method over and over, listen to myself over and over, with a combination of reading and a combination of practicing. When I'd get home over the weekend, and then I'd talk to the walls. I had a big teddy bear in the room, so I'd talk to him for a bit, and I'd also talk to my tennis racket. Anybody that would listen. Because I kept reapproaching and assessing my strategy to see how it was working. And sometimes you get bored of just listening to a dictaphone, so you have to make a few notes, and you've got to just keep changing and refreshing to keep it interesting. So I varied it and come back to it. And before I knew it, I felt like I was getting somewhere. After about a year, I thought, right, I need to put some pressure on myself now. I need to set a date. I need a goal now. I need an end game. I've got to be building towards something. So I started to practice. Started to practice out loud. Started to do all the things that John had said, well, this is the thing you should be doing. By the time you go, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll do that in a bit. I'll be all right. I'll just keep talking to the teddy bear. Then you realise, no, I actually need to start talking to some real people here. And this, I said, it was embarrassing because there were friends and family who didn't really want to hear my story because there were parts of the story that my family don't even know. I've probably told you more there than my wife knows about what actually was really going on with me because I've been too embarrassed to admit it. Isn't that strange? I can talk to you, but I can't talk to her. But it was the best thing I did. Just that little bit of pressure. Those of you who are embarking on your journey, can't emphasise that enough. Because it irons out all the little nuances that you may or may not be aware of, and it just makes that first seminar your fifth seminar in reality. My first session. Okay, we're building up now, we think we're invincible, we've been up and down our emotional roller coaster. Seminar was on a Saturday, Friday night. Could I sleep? No. Was I nervous? Yeah. But I used those nerves, but I also felt invincible. Because I knew it worked, because it worked on me. And if it could work on me, it can work on anybody. Because I was a firm believer in the process, because I'd used it twice. So there's nothing to doubt, only my delivery of the method. And I'd practiced, I'd reassessed, my strategy, execution. I'd been through the process so many times. And I heard John's voice, just keep going, Mike, because they don't know what you're going to say next. And they're looking for you for inspiration. I felt sick, my stomach was physically turning over, the most nervous I've ever been, even more nervous than my wedding day. I also felt on top of the world. Great feeling, knowing you're about to change somebody's life forever. You can never underestimate it. Rob and Crispin had changed my life for the better. I wouldn't be here today, there's no getting around, I'd be dead by now. I trusted the method, I trusted me, and we talked about the question, the Q&A earlier about what do you say when somebody says, how long have you been doing it? That was asked my first question. So I'm like, how long have you been doing it? 3 years. Big cheesy smile. 3 years, brilliant. I don't know where 3 years came from, it just seemed a good number at the time. But I wanted to give them the confidence to go easy on me, because I was just as nervous as some of them, but I could never show it. Because it was about trust. I needed them to trust me, because they were in the right place. But I didn't want to get bogged down with my real lack of inexperience. I couldn't say it was my first one, I've never done it before. That clearly wouldn't be the answer or the response that anybody at that point in the proceedings would be looking for. So 3 years came out, and for the next 3 years, I just kept saying 3 years one day, but I'm going to be right eventually, aren't I? So I'll just keep going. For that first session, and John said, right, Mike, don't get yourself too big, 4, maximum 5 possibly, but keep it nice and small, and it's kind of the first one's about you, and we're behind you, it's going to be fine. Okay, before I knew it, I had 8, thinking, oh God, this isn't going right, what am I going to do with a room full of 8? Drink is all looking like I used to look like. One guy walked in, and when your heart just sinks. I thought, oh God, he's got no chance. I'd already judged him, but I thought, no, don't judge him, because he's come to see me. And the first thing he said is, any chance I can go to the bar and get a drink? I thought, oh, this is going to be a long day, this. But he kept saying it. And there were several other people in the room. I thought, my God, if this is my first seminar from hell. But don't let on. Keep control. And after about 2 hours, I asked them to leave. Because it was the right thing to do. I wasn't sure, but it was the right thing to do because there were several other people who were up for it. Best thing I did, and it gave me the confidence because it looked like I knew what I was doing. I gave the impression I was in control, and probably looking back I was actually. I was just nervous myself, but I was in control. I was in control of the whole day. It was fine. It went on a bit longer than planned, but I was me just doing my thing. And the back of my voice, back of my head, I just heard John's voice, just keep going. Don't stop, don't give them the chance to pick holes in what you're doing, because they want what you've got. Never a truer word been said. As I said there, I'd eaten my elephant, I'd done it, I'd survived, and all those cliches of what it's like. Well, we got to the end, and the people were diving on me. I don't know what I did, but it must have come across. I think they ultimately knew that I knew what it was like. Some people didn't want to go home, they just stood next to me with a chat for 20 minutes, and turning around, still here? And it's like that. Because it was time for them to leave. They didn't want to because they must have felt safe being with me. Nice that, take that. But the feedback you get, okay, I'm not trying to, some of the experienced guys, you've all had lovely feedback, you've all like this, but this is important to me because this feedback, I started in the April, that was a seminar in June. John, I think you actually sat in on that session with this guy. He was a fireman from York who was, he'd just beaten up his daughter's boyfriend. The second time he was going to jail, when in fact he was a fireman. And in fact he'd come on the course was what was keeping him out of jail for 20 odd years. He was going away for it. He severely damaged this guy. And he wrote to me the next day. Alan was an angel and I was one of his disciples. Okay, I'm not particularly religious, but I'll take that. Never is a truer word than said, I think, where I'm at. He was from Yorkshire. You see the comments there from James from Glasgow. Tony from Perth. That's not Perth in Scotland, that's Perth, Australia. That guy somehow, in 5-6 months, had heard of me, heard of the method, and flew in. All the way from Australia to Manchester to come and see me. This guy who'd been doing this for 3.5 years by now. I'm not sure he'd have come if he didn't. I've only done 5. Yeah, but you come all the way from Australia to come and see me. He did. I had a lovely letter from him after that note. Get busy dying, get busy living. Shawshank Redemption, Andy Dufresne, it's in the manuals. He actually had get busy living or get busy dying tattooed on his chest. On his anniversary, his first anniversary of not drinking. He wrote to me and showed me and said, Mike, if it wasn't for you, I'd be dead. Common. I could relate to that. He had it tattooed backwards. It was his anniversary of him not drinking for the first year. It was a present to himself. Every time he looked in the mirror, he could see it. You never forget it. He never wants to go back to where he'd been. This guy, Ben from Singapore, he's one of the chaps who sits in front of you, arms folded, really aggressive. You're never going to fix me. I said, I'm not, you're going to fix yourself. I'm just going to show you how. I asked him, how are you feeling? Give me a word at the start. He says, sceptical, more than sceptical. I'm the most sceptical person you've ever met in your life. Brilliant. So do me a favour, can you be more than that? The room went silent. I got away to Singapore and I thought, I'm walking in, I've come halfway around the world and I've got a confrontation like this. Love it, bring it on, let's have it. Because he was getting, like everything we all recognise, he was just scared. Fear. It lies beneath most things, and as you learn, you just can't take people's reaction at face value. After about 4 hours, he put his hand up and said, Mike, I'm really sorry, I want to apologise. My behaviour this morning was out of order. Apologised to the group, and I got a lovely letter from him. Apologising again. He's gone on to be some vice president of Google since then. He's got 2 promotions, and the guy's absolutely flying out of Singapore. All down to me. He wants me to go back and have a chat to him, just to talk and do stuff. You'd never have thought that that would be the response we'd have seen in the chat for the first half hour. Paul from Sydney, this is from the trip we did just recently. But the point is, you can see it doesn't matter where you are in the world. This room's an example of that. When you drink, it affects you in a certain way. When you get to a situation where you need to seek professional help, it doesn't matter whether you're in Manchester or Melbourne, Stockholm, Sydney, it doesn't matter where you are, the solution is the same. As I say, my journey, just a physical journey to around the world's one thing. The journey I've been on personally is longer, bigger, better. People call me lucky. You make your own luck. It's the compounding effect of making 4 or 5 good decisions back to back, just as being unlucky is making 4 or 5 bad decisions back to back. They say about compound and compound interest, those who don't understand it pay for those that do, because those that understand the benefits of compound interest are loaded, they're rich. Well, I'm not rich, but I feel like I'm the richest guy on the planet, for what I have. Because I made 4 or 5 good decisions back to back. That was amazing, to be able to go to, thanks to Natalie. We sat here three conferences ago, and Natalie said, I might have a few people who could benefit from having a chat with you, Mike. So I've only been doing it a year. Well, great, I am. I felt invincible at the same time, because obviously when you come to an event like this, you do feel a bit invincible, and also you also feel quite humble at the same time. Natalie put a date in the diary, we got focused, and before we knew it, I said, look, I can't come for long. She said, it's Sydney, you do know where you're going. I said, well, I'll come and I'll do it. So I flew in, I did it, and I went home again. I thought, I'm never going to get a chance to go to Sydney, Australia, ever. If I've got the chance to fly around the world, even if it's just for 2 days, and go and help a room full of people cure themselves from their drinking addiction, I'm up for that. If they're up for it, I'm certainly up for it. That's not work. That's passion. We did it. Huge success. Great response. And I said, will you come and do it again? I said, you bet. So we'll do Melbourne this time, getting a bit of response from Melbourne. It worked. We went in February, we did it again. Room full of people. The seminar, we said, we'll do Sydney as well, and the Sydney seminar started to build, thanks to Natalie and thanks to Nick for organising it. Thanks to John for letting me go. We're going again next Feb, we're going to do it again. Like anything, you get on a roll, why not? Let's just see how far we can push it. But okay, not taking away my focus from Manchester, but I can take a week, 2 weeks out of my day job to give up time to go and do this. That's easy. That's an easy decision to make. It's another benefit, or another compounding benefit of making good decisions. I also had a chance this time last year to go and do it in Singapore. A lady had heard of me. She was going to fly in to meet me, but then the plans changed. But in the meantime, a friend had been from Scotland and said, I've just seen this guy in Manchester. You want to go and see him? She said, oh, actually, I'm booked in to go. But then she couldn't make it. That's if I go there. before we knew it, I had 16 people signed up to go over to Singapore to Railcar, come I'll do it. So you can see it's up my family on it. I'm taking my family to these places, not because I started drinking, but because I'd stopped drinking. All this seems to happen. People call me lucky, but it's not luck, it's 4 or 5 good decisions back to back. R equals S, yeah. Strategy, execution and assessment. It keeps coming back to that. That's the formula for luck, if you like. I'm having a sling, as you know, there's no alcohol in that one, because otherwise I'd be not practicing what I'm preaching. Who'd have thought I'd be sitting in Raffles in Singapore having a sling? I certainly didn't. So my journey, it's been a bit more than just travelling. Been on a personal journey as well as the miles. But I thought I'd finish on this, because I do have a passion for stripes. The first time round it was Colombia, what's the chap from Colombia with the striped socks?
Felipe.
I had Felipe's socks on.
Yeah.
Didn't quite have them on this day. Diane, have you got them on? There they are, the socks are back. Diane's got them. The socks have travelled just as far as I have. Brenda, where are you? I thought I'd have to make a little note. Can't beat a matching outfit, love the stripes. But the reason why I've done that, though, again, is the freedom only a free man can feel, to use another quote from the Shawshank Redemption. As I say to my wife, every hour's happy hour when you don't drink. I'm not trying to preach to you, I'm just telling you how I see it. And Jim said, yeah, Mike the Redeemer, okay. I thought I'll have a little joke in there, but at the same time, you know what? It feels good, doesn't it? Never forget how good this role is, even when you have your dark days, because people need you. In summary of my journey, what's important, I think probably important in life, is never, when you make a good decision, you never doubt it. What you do is need to, if it's not going the way you planned, you need to assess it and go back and do it again. You just need to fine tune it. If it's a good decision in the first place, it's still a good decision. There's nothing you can't do. Hey, I've never seen a more powerful room for people who, there's things we thought we probably couldn't. If anybody ever wants to doubt that question, you need to come and have a chat with anybody in this room. I'm sure we can convince them otherwise. Eat your elephant, no matter how big the task is, you can do it, we can do it, there's nothing we can't do. As I say, people call me lucky, and do you know what? The more times I do that little equation, the luckier I get. I think it was Gary Player who once said, the more he practices, the luckier he gets playing golf. It's the same principle, it's not luck. But more importantly, after all that, of my journey, it is an absolute privilege to say I work for Alan Carr. Alan Carr's easy way. It saved my life. And now I've had the chance to save others. That's powerful. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Mike, for that really, really moving presentation. I think we've all been through a story somewhat similar, perhaps not as extreme. And you know, that's what we're doing. We are indeed saving people's lives, and let's not forget that. And thanks so much. Look, it'd be great pleasure to introduce now one of our real star performers in the organisation for some time. Jorge and Isabel Davo set up in Mexico, I think 14 years ago now. They've been spectacularly successful as a result of their highly professional methods and techniques and determination and hard work. Today, I gather that virtually the entire family is going to be presenting, which is great. Jorge Sr., Jorge Jr., and Isabel. He's going to be giving us an idea of his school's presentation. Now, I've done several schools presentations myself, and I found them quite challenging, so I'm quite looking forward to seeing what your approach is and what success you've had. They are a difficult audience, youngsters. Of course, what Jorge is going to be focusing on is not curing of nicotine addiction, but trying to prevent them from actually falling into the trap in the first place.
Thank you.
Hello, dear friends from Alan Carr family from a long time ago. I don't want to begin without thanking you for so many moments that we have shared together at these conferences. I want to tell you that each one of you are an inspiration to me and to Jorge. Thank you for your love and for your teachings. I'm very excited today because for the first time I'm going to tell the story of Alan Carr's Mexico, although it's very hard for me to do a presentation in English. I don't feel very comfortable doing it in English. I promise to do my best. Because my English is not fluent enough, I'm going to read the presentation. 14 years ago, when I started with the Alan Carr's commercial management, I didn't know how to make people trust Alan Carr's method as an alternative to stop smoking, since no one knew the method in that time. At that moment, social networks were not yet so popular, and it was difficult and very expensive to make an advertising campaign. Jorge and I designed a different strategy from what everybody was doing. We wanted to be original and caught people's attention. From the first moment, we decided that we wanted to do was a campaign that didn't look like an advertising campaign. We wanted to look like a direct recommendation from someone close, like a friend or a relative. Basically, something that looked like word of mouth. From that moment until today, in all our campaigns, whether it's social networks, print media, TV or radio, our approach has always been the same. We want that when a smoker receives information about the method, he has the feeling that his best friend is telling him, go to that clinic. It is very easy to stop smoking there, and you will not suffer, etc. Initially, to achieve this approach of word of mouth, we sent some letters in some kindergarten schools, and they literally stapled the letter to the children's sweaters. The letter appeared to be a personal recommendation that came from a mother of one of the students that stopped smoking in the clinic. The result was much better than we expected, because from the beginning, people trusted the recommendation because they really felt that it came from a very close person and never perceived it as an advertisement. After analyzing this incredible result, we realized that this could be an excellent tool to promote the clinic in a very effective way at no cost to us. So some years later, we decided to try it in a larger scale in bigger schools. We started at our children's school, Isabella, where's Isabella? Isabella and Jorge schools, and thinking they will be very interested in a presentation about how to prevent children from start smoking. Our son, Jorge, always told us that he had many teachers who smoked, and he had to invite them to the seminar. He thought we thought it was a very good idea, and we invited several teachers to the clinic for free. Fortunately, it was a success, and all the teachers stopped smoking, and that was the key to enter to the school. The first presentation was given to children from 12 to 14 years old, and it was a success for two reasons. First, the children became very informed about the nicotine trap And many of them talk about the presentation with friends from other schools, and this created a lot of interest. Other schools start to call us because they want the presentation for their students. Again, word of mouth working. Now the presentation has become very popular, and the largest private schools in Mexico has adopted the presentation as their anti-tobacco prevention tool for their students. The other reason why the presentation was a success is because we gave a letter to the students addressed to their parents with our brochure. In the letter, we explained to the parents what the presentation was about, telling them that I am school's mother concerned because I want parents to have information on how to prevent our children from start smoking. The letter includes my contact information, explaining that I am also a therapist at the Allen Cars Clinic, so they can contact me if they have a child who is starting to smoke, or if they are smokers. In addition, we give a link for parents for a web page specially designed for the school with a blog with these articles. How to prevent your kids from start smoking, nicotine withdrawal symptoms, 5 tips for smokers, 10 tips to stop smoking, what happens when nicotine enters to your body, and many more. We are very happy with what we are doing because we believe that we are helping many children not to start doing something that will lead them to a miserable life, and giving them information they can't find anywhere else. It is also an excellent promotional tool for Allen Car Mexico without costing us a penny. Unfortunately, some of these children will start smoking, and surely, when they decide to stop, sorry, this went like, can you help me? Sorry. Unfortunately, some of these children will start smoking, and surely, when they decide to stop, we will be present in their minds, and we will be the first option that they choose. Now, Jorge is going to talk about how he designed the presentation so that the teenagers will find it entertaining and different from what they have heard about smoking.
Hi everyone, I'm very happy to be here with you. I feel like I'm part of a very big family, and it has been great to see you all again. The truth is that it wasn't easy to convince our children's school to let us do the first presentation, and Isabel deserves all the credit for this project. And when the school finally agreed to let us do the presentation, I knew this was a unique opportunity to help some of these kids not to fall into the nicotine trap. But I also knew it was going to be very difficult to communicate with them. They're definitely the most difficult audience you can have. At that age, they don't have a lot of patience. They tend to get distracted easily. They think they know everything, and they also think adults don't know what they are going through. So I knew it was going to be a difficult task, but I have to say that giving these presentations has been one of the most enjoyable experiences in my life. It's incredible how kids really are interested in learning new things. Sorry. okay. After thinking for a while, I realized that the best way to communicate with them would be through a very concrete presentation with a very clear message. And of course, the message is the same message we give at the Allen Carr seminars. Smoking does not give you any benefits at all. What I really wanted is that after the presentation, when these kids saw someone smoking, a single idea came to their minds. Poor guy, he needs to smoke to feel okay. He needs to feed the nicotine monster. That's what I really wanted from the presentation. Although they gave us 1 hour to give the presentation, kids tend to lose interest very quick, so I knew 1 hour talking would be too much. So I divided the presentation in 3 parts. The first part is designed to try to achieve some kind of empathy with them, that in some way they can feel identified with me, and that they don't see me like the typical adult that is coming to talk about how bad smoking is. In the second part, I explain how the nicotine trap works in a very simple way, and I repeat the same message many times. The only reason smokers smoke is to try to feel like non-smokers feel all the time. And the third part of the presentation is a Q&A session. Incredibly, when we reach this stage, the kids feel very confident with me, and they don't stop asking me questions. Every time we give the presentation, time runs out, and there are still many kids that have a lot of questions. I will go through the slides to explain you how the presentation is structured, and also to tell you about the reaction of the kids at some points, because for me it's fascinating how the kids react to some things. The title of the presentation is How to Avoid Falling into the Nicotine Trap. We think this is a very attractive title, especially for the kids' parents and for the school. And it also allows us to talk not only about cigarettes, but of kind of products that contain nicotine. In fact, in the second slide, I explained to the kids that everything that I'm going to say during the presentation applies not only for cigarettes, but for all products with nicotine, like pipes, cigars, electronic cigarettes, and the shisha pipe, also known in other places as hookah or narguile. It has become very popular in Mexico to smoke shisha pipe, especially among very young kids. They start smoking the pipe when they're 12 or 13 years old. And the worst thing is that these kids' parents really think that it's not bad. They think it does not contain nicotine, that it's not harmful. So I have seen parents preparing the shisha pipe for their kids, so they can smoke it like if it was some kind of entertainment. So for me it's very important to let them know that smoking shisha involves the same risk as smoking cigarettes. I'm sure that when their teachers tell the kids that they're going to attend a no smoking presentation, they think they're going to hear all the bad things about smoking, no? About the terrible diseases that it can cause. So I immediately tell them that I'm not going to talk about it. And the reason that I'm not going to talk about the bad things of smoking is because I know that if this could help them not to start smoking, some of them won't smoke. And here's where I can see the first reaction of the kids, because when I say I know some of them already smoke, immediately everybody start looking at the kids that already smoke. And of course, usually these are the most popular kids in the school. And I can see these kids feeling very proud of themselves, no? Because they're already smokers. But they don't know that I have something prepared for them later during the presentation. Before I talk about nicotine, I start talking about my experience as a smoker, my experience as a therapist. So to try that in some way they can feel identified with me, and to establish some kind of authority, so they take me seriously. I tell them my story like if it was a typical Disney movie, like this typical Disney hero's journey, where the hero is going through very bad moments in his life until he reaches the lowest point in his life. And then something magical happens and everything changes. And of course, this magical thing is Alan Carr's Easy Way. I tell them that I started smoking when I was 14 years old. I started smoking 1 cigarette here, 1 cigarette there, until I eventually ended smoking two packs a day. I asked them if they know how many cigarettes come in a pack, and again, the popular kids always answer me 20. They feel very, very bad about it. Then I tell them how my life went from being wonderful to being miserable because of smoking. I had constant cough, stained teeth, and no energy. And when I was 29, I decided that it was time to quit. I made several attempts with different methods that didn't work, until I became convinced that I would have to spend the rest of my life smoking. This is the lowest part of the story. But luckily, not everything was lost, and someone told me about Alan Carr's method. I had nothing to lose, so I tried, and this is a turning point in the story. I stopped smoking with the Alan Carr's method without suffering, and it was very easy. I regained my energy, I felt very good, and I decided that I wanted to help other smokers to stop smoking. And this is where I advertise the method. I talk a little bit about the organization, about the clinic, about the clinics around the world, trying to make it not look like if it's an ad. I also tell them that I have been helping people for more than 15 years, and that I have met many famous people who have quit using the method. This is all famous people from Mexico that have attended the clinic. Also, I talk about the famous people that have go to the clinic in other countries. And here's where the first part of the presentation ends. Then I start talking about the nicotine trap, how the nicotine trap works, and how it doesn't provide any benefits at all. First, I tell them that nicotine is a drug that comes in tobacco, which is also very strong poison that is used to make insecticides. Then I tell them that before lighting the first cigarette, no one needed to smoke. And after you smoke your first cigarette, the body starts to eliminate nicotine, and that provokes the withdrawal symptoms for the first time. I explain the nicotine diagram in a very, very simple way, and make them see that, again, that smoking does not give you any benefits, that the only reason smokers smoke is to feel like non-smokers feel all the time. And to reinforce the diagram, I tell them about the little nicotine monster, which they think it's very funny, but I think it's one of the things that they're most impressed with, because at the end of the presentation, in the Q&A session, they always refer to the nicotine monster. So I think this has a very, very good impact in them. Another point that I try to reinforce is the fact that even if the first cigarettes taste so bad, that doesn't mean that they will not get hooked. That it has nothing to do with the taste. Everything has to do with nicotine. Then I tell them that the little monster starts growing until you no longer are in control anymore. You become a slave of the monster, and you have to be feeding it constantly so it does not bother you. I talk about advertising and how tobacco companies spend hundreds of millions of dollars each year to make us believe otherwise. How they pay actors and actresses to smoke in movies, and how they try to convince us that smoking is something wonderful and that it can give you certain benefits in good and in bad moments. But then, to deny these ideas, I tell a story about two friends One is a smoker and the other one is not a smoker. The friends go to a party and meet a very beautiful girl in the party. They both like the girl. Unfortunately, the kid that smokes has to go out to smoke a cigarette to feed the little nicotine monster. And when he returns to the party, his non-smoker friend is already dancing with the girl because he did not have to go out to smoke. I tell them the example of wearing tight shoes. And this reinforces the idea again that smoking does not give you anything, that it's not a pleasure but a relief of discomfort. And then I use another example of a group of people who are in a restaurant having a nice time, but one of them is a smoker and runs out of cigarettes, and they do not sell cigarettes in the restaurant. So after a while, he decides to go out to get some cigarettes, but when he's leaving the restaurant, the waiter says, I have a surprise for you. I found a pack of cigarettes. And I tell them, can you imagine the face of the smoker when he opens the pack and lights the cigarette? I said, how do you think the smoker will feel at that moment? Happy, relaxed, calm. Now he can go back with his friends and start enjoying the evening. And then I asked them a question that for me is key during the presentation. I asked them, who do you think the smoker will feel like? And there are always several kids who answer me just like a non-smoker. And I realized that these kids already understood the message. Then I tell them that these kind of situations are what makes smokers believe that they can't live without cigarettes. And at the same time, they become aware of the damage that smoking is provoking them. So this makes smokers live a miserable life, because on one hand, they know it's bad and it's hurting them, and on the other hand, they believe that they can live without cigarettes. I talk about the internal struggle smokers suffer all their lives, and how this makes them to start looking for excuses to continue to smoke, although what they really want is to stop smoking. I ask them if they know why adults always tell you not to smoke, but they continue to smoke. Why, if they know that it's bad, they don't quit. And some kids always answer me because they are afraid. And these are probably the kids who understood the message and who are not going to start smoking. To conclude the presentation, I make a brief summary of the most important points. First, I tell them to be careful, because although the first cigarettes taste bad, they have nicotine, and once you light a cigarette, the little monster will enter your body and it will have to be fed. Second, and this is a surprise for the popular kids who already smoke, I say that smoking is no longer in fashion, that there's a very strong social rejection towards smokers, that you can no longer smoke anywhere, and that smokers now are seen as losers who are hooked. And here, when I can see how the eyes of the children focus on the popular kids who already smoke, that some minutes ago they were feeling very cool, but at that moment they changed from being the popular cool kid who already smokes to the poor loser who has to smoke to feed the nicotine monster. And of course, the most important point of the presentation and the message with which I want them to go is do not be fooled. Smoking does not give you any benefits of any kind. After the presentation, we do the Q&A session that always turns out to be very interesting and fun. Every time the questions turn out to be very similar. Are there cigarettes with no nicotine? Why are cigarettes legal if they are so bad? What do we do in the seminars to help people to stop smoking? What do you have to tell your parents if you want them to stop smoking? How long does the little monster survive without nicotine? And what about the electronic cigarettes? And what about marijuana? These are usually the same questions that we have in every presentation. It's surprising the interest that children have in this subject. Teachers always have to interrupt the Q&A session due to lack of time. And the last thing I tell them before they leave is that it's very important that they give their parents the letter that we gave them, and that they tell them that if they have any doubts, they can contact us. I think that in the end, we achieved the goal, and in fact, I think some of those kids will not start smoking, thanks to the presentation, in addition to all the advertising benefits of the business. The first presentation we gave was at Jorge School almost 3 years ago, and I would like him to talk a little bit about his experience and how his classmates reacted to the presentation and the results he has been able to observe.
Hello everyone. I feel that I've been part of this organization since I can remember. Because my parents are always talking about talent car and you. So even that this is the first time that I am here, I feel that I've known you for a very long time. Usually, students in first grade of high school do an interdisciplinary project on smoking. This project is a really big project in which many subjects like chemistry and biology are involved. When I got to this grade and the teacher explained us about the project, I thought that it was a really good opportunity for my parents to do the conference about the nicotine trap. Before the presentation, I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't heard the presentation before and wasn't sure about how my classmates were going to react. When my dad gave the presentation, the first thought that came to my mind was that it was a really interesting conference and that my classmates had understood the message. After the conference, we went to another class, and my classmates were talking a lot about everything they had learned in the presentation. Even the teacher participated in the conversation. They had many questions that they didn't have time to ask during the presentation, and were discussing the answers. They were also asking me some questions. I think that the presentation had a positive impact in everyone who has heard it, and has surely saved many young students from falling into the nicotine trap. It has been an honor to meet you, and I hope we can have the opportunity to spend more time together in the future. Thank you.
I'm just going to finish to translate it to English so I can give it and you can all have the presentation. And if you have any questions at all, please feel completely free to talk to us.
Are there any questions now?
How do you offer the information or the presentation to the school managers?
We have been very lucky because the difficult part was convincing the school for the first presentation. But after we did the first presentation, it was incredible because other schools start calling us to do the presentation. So the difficult one was to convince the first school. Yeah. But after that, it has been like, Isabel said, word of mouth only, between the kids and the kids' parents also. Yes.
And for free?
For free, completely for free. Yes, the only thing we ask them is to let us give the letter to their kids so they can give the kids the letter to their parents. That's the only thing we ask for. Yes.
Sure. At first, I want to thank you and your family for the wonderful presentation.